Welcome back to Ask Dad. On today's video, I want to do a quick review of the Landa app. You can find this at Landa, Landa.app. Now, Landa is a platform that allows you to invest in real estate, doing small portions of it. It's fractional shares of real estate. They're investment properties, and it's one of those basically turnkey type setups where you're just buying shares of properties they already own or they're buying, and then they handle all the details, they handle the management, you don't have to do anything. It's very similar to Arrived or Arc7 or some of the other platforms that are out there. In fact, some of the ones that we have even reviewed. And it's one of those apps that I want to like, but let me get into it and I'll show you what some of the issues I'm having are. So turning on the screen here, when you log on to Landa, you create your own account, you log in, and you come to this page. This shows all of the properties that they have. It shows kind of a cool layout here with the different areas of the country that they have properties available. You can zoom in and out, and it's pretty much primarily in the southeast. They do have 3 multifamily properties I have found in New York State. In fact, they're just outside New York City. So you can come down, you can see the different locations here by the markets. You can scroll across, you can see just that by markets. Then you can come down to the individual properties. You can come into the Hancock Street is a multifamily outside of New York. It'll tell you exactly where it is in Brooklyn, and you can come through and see all of the details. The information that Landa has on their website should be phenomenal. It should be something where you come in, you look at this, and you say, hey, this is great. This is what the property should be worth. It tells you the purchase price, $2.7 million. It tells you all of the different units they have. It tells you whether they're missing payments, late, current. It shows you over here the cash balance and what is even happening in the property as a whole. You come down, you can see your total holdings of the property. You can see what you paid, the portfolio weight, the gains that you have, updates on the property. This information is phenomenal, and this is better than any other site that I've seen. You come down here, it shows you the dividend, the collected rent, management fee, interest payment, all of those different pieces. The breakdown on the financing. You can see the loans that you have on the property. And then you get a little neighborhood breakout here. And then you can even see the documents. You can see the loan agreements, operating agreements. Everything that is going on with this property you have at your fingertips and similar properties to it. From a platform perspective, Landa is the best that I have seen on a fractional ownership of properties website. That's the good news. Where I have problems with it is the information does not seem to track. And let's get a little bit more into it. So I only have a small amount of shares on the property. I'm kind of dabbling with it to see if it's a platform that I would want to invest more in. And if you come into your portfolio, you can see that they've got the current account portfolio based on what they have figured the market rates are. A little more on that here in a second. You can see the total dividends that you've made from the rent that they pay out monthly, and they do pay it out monthly if there's something there. It shows you the locations in the country that the properties you are a part owner of are at. It shows you the overall rent. It shows you your properties, the markets, the types, the statuses of each property. And again, this information it is phenomenal if it's accurate. And here's where it comes into a problem. So let me take 368 Irwin Street. And 368 is a fourplex in Atlanta, Georgia. It has very nice units. If you look at the pictures, the property is well kept. It looks like it's been recently redone. Everything in here should be a great home for a tenant. When I bought my shares in this property, let me see if I can find that screen here. Here we go. I bought these shares, I started probably back here in October-ish. And the way that Landa works is they buy a property, they fix the property, they fill up the property, and then they sell all the shares. Once all of the shares are sold, then the shares can be traded in a market-like platform. So that's another cool thing about Landa is you're not tied into this property until they sell it like you are with other platforms. You can actually sell your shares to someone else that wants to buy them. Well, for whatever reason, and I think there's a few different reasons on this one, the shares were trading for about $11.96. You can see here for quite some time. And then when they sold out and the shares went live on the trading platform, they dropped from $11.96, almost $12 a share, immediately down to $6, and very quickly down into the $3 and $4 range where they've been trading now, as you can see, for months. So why is that? Well, with typical real estate, the value doesn't adjust until you sell the property. That's when you actually recognize your losses or your gains. With Landa, you're dealing with emotional parties who are trying to buy and sell this property more like the stock market as opposed to real estate. And that leads to, if there's something with the property, something wrong with the property, that leads to emotional reactions. So what I've seen with this property is the property has struggled with occupancy. So let's come back up here. We can look at what's happening. So again, this is where you have great information. It talks about the overall building rent. It talks about the unit rents. But here's a major problem. I've got information here that says this rents for $2,000 a month. 2 of the 4 units are leased. But my building's showing that I have $0 a month in rent. Well, let's see. I go to unit 1. It's under renovation. It seems like that's actually been under renovation since I've owned shares in this property. That's almost a year. Unit 2 says in marketing. That's been in marketing for some time. Unit 3 says it's an eviction. It's been an eviction for at least 6 months, maybe longer. And Unit 4 says it's rented, but it says again at $0 a month. Now, not long ago, this said $2,000 a month. Here's where the problem breaks down. If there's no information, or if the information doesn't track with what you're seeing up here, and there's no accuracy, what can you do? So I've actually emailed Landa and tried to get additional information, and they tell me their property management's handling it. That's all they'll say. They won't give any additional information. I don't know what's happening. Now, I did look up the crime reports in this area, and it did look like some sort of a car theft had happened at this property, so maybe the area of town's not great. But this is a problem. And here's where they come up with the market cap. So you come down here and you see again that the shares are currently trading at about $3.50 a share. Well, that is a direct multiple then to what the market cap is. So now it says the market cap is 10,000 times the $3.50. That gives you $350,000 because they sell 10,000 shares for each individual property. So this property that was purchased, I believe, for around $900,000 is now saying it's worth about $350,000. Well, that's why I actually bought more shares, because I figured there's no way you can even touch a 4-unit property in Atlanta for $350,000. But the problem that I continue to see is Landa's numbers don't track, and they're not able to get their arms around the occupancy on this property. So let's come down here and look at another issue. So this could be a great opportunity for someone to get in, but you have to understand that you're dealing with a property that's fluctuating wildly, and it's a huge speculative buy, not your standard real estate buy at this time. Now, again, going back to the information that Landa provides, this should be phenomenal. So in July, they pay a dividend. They collected $2,000 in rent. Keep in mind, this is a fourplex. It should be generating at least $2,000 per unit, so you'd be at $8,000. They have not collected more than $2,000 for months and months at a time. So $2,000 a month, they had a $160 management fee. They had a little bit of interest, another question mark. What are they paying interest on? I'll get to that here in a second. Changing cash is an increase of $1,300. They paid a $500 dividend, and they sold 100,000 shares. Now, that's my mistake. It's 100,000, not 10,000, like I said earlier. And they paid out a 0.005 cents per share dividend. So if you have 100 shares, you got 5 cents. Now, if we go back a month, in June, this is where, again, more confusion starts. So here in May, it shows that let me go back to July. They shows $2,000 a month collected in rent. In June, it doesn't show they collected any rent at all, and yet they paid a $600 dividend out to everyone. Why would you pay a dividend if you don't bring in any money? That doesn't seem to make sense. May, again, $599.40 dividend, but no rent. April, no dividend, no rent. March, no dividend, no rent. February, they did collect $2,075, so they paid out a dividend. And that's all the farther they go back. So from an accounting standpoint, I'm looking at the question of, why are you paying dividends if you don't have any rent? And why do I now have a multiple month track record of no rent being received or very little rent being received? Does property management just have too much on their plates? Are they not able to manage this property effectively? And understanding they've got thousands of investors on this property, they can't respond to anyone, but they should at least have more information than we're going to handle it after not being able to handle it for months and months at a time. So these are some of the issues. When I come in here now to that interest payment, when I come in here to see all loans, it does show you the current loans, and it says there's a current loan of $810,000 at an 8.99% interest rate. My math says that's more than a penny in interest they should be paying, but it also shows this loan has an end date of November 29th, 2023. So in theory, now that the property has been completely sold, there should be no loan on it, and this should not be showing as a current loan. This should be showing as a past loan that's paid off, which then leads to the next question of what in the world are we paying interest on? So these are some of the factors that I've got, or some of the issues I've got with the Landa app. I love the information. I love the details. I love everything they're showing on the properties. I just wish it was accurate. And if I come up here to the current rent, I have no idea what this means because they're showing a year and then they show different pieces, but it doesn't really provide any descriptions on what's going on. It does show this cash balance here. So if we come into that, we can see that there's, again, another interest payment on July 4th. We've got management fees being charged. I've got rent being paid. But that rent doesn't seem to track. So for example, I've got $2,000 a month in June, $2,200 in May, $2,000 in June. If I come down here to the dividends, remember we had $2,000 in June, $2,200 in May, and $2,000 again in April, and none of that shows up here on their history. So maybe this is a one-off, right? Let's go look at one of the other properties. So if I come down and look at this 6696 Mableton Parkway, this is again another fourplex. I've got 3 out of the 4 units leased at $3,233 a month, or yeah, $3,223.75 per month. But again, the rent information is not transferring. I've got $0 a month, $0 a month, $0 a month, and $0 a month again. So why do I have $0 a month when I'm being told that I've got 3 of the 4 units rented here? Data it has to be critical in any type of situation like this. Now, Landa has a Discord page and people are talking about buying these 2 properties because they are fluctuating so wildly. But when you have a scenario like this that you're buying fractional ownership, it's only as good as the data that you provide and the accuracy of that data and then the execution. If you're bringing in money, properties will be worth more. If you're not bringing in money, properties will be worth less. This property shows that dramatically. So for example, this is a 7-day track record of the price on this property. And you can see it's ranged from $3.64 down to a low of $2.75. If we do a 1-year history of it, wow, that looks like a very volatile stock. So fractional ownership buying can be a way for people to get into real estate. It can also be a very high risk way for people to get into real estate. Because as you can see on this property, we've got a high here of $4.96. We've got a low down here of $2.50. And real estate doesn't generally operate this way. This is more based on emotions, and I would suggest that it's also based on Landa's poor execution of their management responsibilities. So, coming back to my overall review of this, I love the amount of information that the Landa app provides. The platform seems to be the best that I've seen so far with the amount of information that's available and the way that it's presented. However, the accuracy of the information is so poor that if you're going to buy anything on this platform, expect this to be highly speculative. I don't know if it's going to survive. There may be underlying issues behind the scenes that I'm not aware of, but at this time I am not able to recommend Landa for anything besides highly speculative investing in the emotional nature of real estate. And I hate to say it like that. I do also need to make sure that I say on this particular, well, on anything from this channel, this is not investment advice whatsoever. This is simply my experience with these type of platforms, and you need to do your own due diligence. If you're not familiar with real estate investing or with this type of investing, please seek appropriate financial help from an appropriately licensed individual. Again, my experience with Landa though is I would stay away from it unless you want to just speculate and hope that the values do increase. I think that they have some amazing things and I hope they get their arms around their details. Until then though, this is a spec play. I hope this type of content has been helpful to you. If you like this video, please do like it down below. If this is the type of content you'd like to see more of, do subscribe. And if you know someone who may benefit from this video, please share it with them. Thanks for being here. We'll see you on the next one.